Welcome back everybody to week 70 of my reboot progression series. This episode is gonna be a big one. I will finally complete my goal that I had since liberating my Genesis weapon, and that is to take on the Black Mage solo for the very first time. Before we dive into things, I want to get you up to speed what I bring to the table as well as, what my class brings to the table. Overall, I'm at roughly 61k stat with my weapon, secondary and emblem being relatively good. So the weapon is double primed but doesn't have the attack flame, rather the boss damage flame, and the other pieces are full attack, which is really beneficial for me. When it comes to familiars, I'm sitting at 60 boss and 30 ID, as well as I bring a little bit of healing for allies, which is really nice. Then we have the Legion. I have quite a big Legion here at 9k plus. And lastly, I would like to show off the 6 job that I brought into this boss fight. I have my origin skill at level 10, my mastery at 16, as well as, a couple of points into my 5th job skills. You can, for bossing, basically disregard this skill right here, Shadow Bite. This is purely used for farming. It does get stronger and I use it regularly during bosses, but it doesn't contribute to, my BA in any meaningful way. So if you were to compare yourself against me in terms of 6 job, I would just disregard this skill here completely. Alright, so when it comes to Nightwalker as a class to solo any bosses, I want to go over the burst rotation here shortly with you guys. I would start off with the buffs that I have from 1 to 7 on my keyboard here. In a descending order, I would buff up with Glory of the Guardians. This is the standard 60-second 10% damage buff that all classes have. Then we have Spears. This is a buff that enhances my DPM for 90 seconds, roughly 90 seconds out of the 180 seconds that, my full burst rotation outside of the origin skill takes. Is whoops, I have no idea how I started that sentence. Then we have the Transcended Cygnus Blessing, aka Maple Warrior 2. Then I would put down my Greater Dark Servant. This is a stationary shadow partner. Then I would bite in order to get the final damage bonus that it does provide for 20 seconds. Then I would use my origin into Dominion, into Shadow Illusion. These are all skills that give me a 30-second big burst buff. Then I would use the Angelic Buster Link into Last Resort, and then I would start with my big attack, which is Rapid Throw. If I have my Roar equipped, which I do for most bosses outside of Dojo, I would of course use Roar first, right? So let's get the Black Mage music going, and I have to equip my weapon first. Yes, there we go. Glory of the Guardians, Spear, Maple Warrior 2, Greater Dark Servant, Shadow Bite, Origin Skill. Then I would backstep cancel Dominion, because I can cancel the animation. Sometimes if I want to return to my original position, I would turn around and backstep cancel Shadow Illusion as well. Then I would use AB Link, Last Resort, Roar, and then I would start Rapid Throwing. I don't have them equipped right now because I'm in my farming gear. Oops, I didn't really think this one through, to be honest, but yeah, this is basically what you're gonna see over and over again. If I have the Will skill and Saren skill up, I would pop them beforehand or, whenever. They do contribute to the BA, but it's not really a thing I would break my head over, to be honest. Same goes for the Cygnus Chicken skill. I do use this from time to time, but only when I'm not able to hit the boss in any other meaningful way. And that's about it. But before you think that I just whipped this solo out of my ass, no. It actually took quite a few attempts to get this down. Especially phase 3 is where the difficulty sparks in the Black Mage fight. Although, I've made it to P4, I also managed to die out in that phase. It is really rough if you want to solo this for the first time to get everything down. Especially without the improved practice mode. I have to wait for guild skills again. It's not free to practice this boss, but I did make it work, and that's really what counts. I died out a couple of times, but let's just go over the successful run here. So to kick things off, I do attack once outside to trigger Fatal Strike in order to have as much damage for P1 as is possible, because if you do not manage to one burst the space, it can cost you quite a few lives. You can see me up jumping and blinking upwards for this really special technique in order to get them both aligned, but honestly, for me it is so execution hit or miss if I manage to get this done correctly. It's not even hard, to be honest, but I don't know. I have so much trouble binding during, the 8 months of runs that we did as a team together. I was never the one who needed to bind these statues here. So for me, I'm starting to do this for the very first time and I'm just having so much trouble. I would recommend you to go on YouTube, watch a couple of different tutorials and then decide on what you want to do. I think this setup is pretty good, especially if you are going to use your origin, because you can just cast that while falling down. But, it's probably a little bit class dependent if you want to start off with your origin, really, right? I don't really know that. But for me, the setup just worked out relatively well. So, for phase 2, I think this is probably the easiest phase, although, phase 1 does have the fewest HP. This phase, outside of the tests, can't really kill you if you pay attention. And the main thing to look out for are the pillars that are spawned, and you will absolutely need to dodge them because they do hurt a lot and they will give you white curse, while the chains are nearly unavoidable and will give you black curse. You saw me use my will skill there in order to not lose life from taking the pillar hit. I still died / lost my door there, but that's just how it is. I couldn't react to the pillars quickly enough and I paid with, 1 life, but it's also good that I only paid 1 life, because if I wouldn't have used the will skill there, I would have paid 2. Besides that, there are regular tests during the second phase here, where you will need to go either to the right side, the middle, or the left side of the map. The Black Mage will show it to you beforehand, right? And for me personally, I found that it is nice to have the test in the middle for damage uptime, right? But my preferred test locations are on either side of the map. And that has mostly to do with the 2 bubbles that the Black Mage sometimes spawns. Those will hurt a lot, especially if you're confined to a small space. The bubbles will just sit on top of you and completely wreck your life sometimes. Although you are able to survive any scenario in which the bubbles are by going to the left side of the FMA attack, right, where you can still stand, and then alternating going to the right side, standing there for a second. I'm not sure if I can show that off in this fight here, but it did happen in the past and I did survive scenarios where I was dealing with a debris ball during the test and I managed to dodge it well enough without running into the one hit, right? So it is possible, but it's very hard to do. You can also what you also saw here was me bursting during the test, and the test was on the left side, so I kinda lost a lot of damage, but in this case it doesn't really matter a lot because I want to enter phase 3 with my origin skill up. So either I would have to do a lot more damage here in P2 in order to have my origin skill up in the burst rotation where it comes up, or I just have an additional 3-minute burst cycle that I can use to damage P2. So in this case, I am not stressed for damage at all. I can basically play this fight willy-nilly as long as I don't give up lives, because the following phases will cost a lot more lives because they are much more execution heavy than phase 2. You can see me whenever I'm getting blinded, I will go to the sides of the map in order to not get hit by any of the pillars. If you are running this boss with a bishop, of course, you know, he can clear or cleanse you, cleanse you of any darkness. But if you're playing solo and you aren't a bishop, you will have to go to the sides to ensure not taking any damage from the pillars. Besides that, as a dark side user, I have no trouble with the white debris or the purple rollings, as the people call them. While the rollings are falling, I can just jump into them with dark side activated and not take any damage. And the white debris is really no problem at all, because I can just activate dark side and, you know, run into them without having to fear anything happening. So here you see my burst is about to be back up, and I will burst one more time. Then I will wait out 3 minutes in order to ensure that I will make it into P3 with burst up, with my origin skill, and of course, like I said, as many lives as is possible. Okay, this is gonna be the last FMA. My buffs are about to be up, just 30 seconds out, so I decide, okay, now it is time to phase. Phase 3 always starts off the same way. The Black Mage will cast lasers, and then the purple rollings will start. And because I know that, okay, I don't need to enter phase 3 with my burst fully up. I can, you know, leave E2 with roughly 30 seconds left. Although you can see I did not time my Genesis iframe there well. You can see I have it on T. I start my burst with all the skills besides Last Resort and the Roar and Rapid Throw, and as soon as I have the Genesis iframe up, then I pull the trigger on the rest of the burst skills, while also of course trying to upkeep as much damage as is possible. So here we go. He does FMAs in a set cycle just like in phase 2, and this time around the FMAs are even deadlier, especially up FMA, where you have to stand on platforms because just by proxy, because I have dark side, right? The down FMA is just a nothing burger for Nightwalkers. I can just activate dark side and tank all the debris, it doesn't really matter. But what also happens in this phase is whenever the FMA happens, the Black Mage gets a shield, and that shield is quite a bit of HP. So I have trouble breaking the shield when I don't have any burst skills up anymore. So when I'm out of spears, where I told you I have this specific buff for 90 out of the 180-second burst cycle, right? When I'm out of this buff, I have a hard time breaking the shield. So it's not like, okay, you saw me do 30% with one burst, oh, then it's just gonna be 3 bursts, right? Nah, it's gonna take a little longer, and it's really just an endurance battle here. You get used to the patterns here, and they do suck sometimes, they do overlap, especially sometimes Black Mage casts purple lasers, as well as wants to kick on basically the same, let's say, frame. Not really sure if frame is the correct way to put it, right? But you know, let's say he wants to kick on the same 10th of a second, where you would get hit by purple lasers, and then you just have to decide, okay, do I die from purple lasers, or do I take a kick and die from the purple lasers potentially, right? So these a really good features that Nightwalkers bring to the table is the ability to side jump after an up jump. Many classes cannot do this, and honestly, I have a hard time playing classes that can't. And I'm pretty sure only thieves are able to do this, but many other classes have, you know, some sort of dash skill that they can still use, while of course Nightwalkers have both, right? They have a dash skill that they can use, and even after using that dash skill, I can still side jump in the air, right? I could up jump, back dash, blink, then side jump. It really gives me a lot of accuracy in where I want to be, and especially also when I want to be at that destination, because I can just basically decide, okay, I need to stay in the air for 4 seconds in total. I up jump, I already backdash into the direction that I want to go, right? And then I blink into that direction, and then as soon as the blink ends, I jump into that direction, or into a different direction. You have really a lot of possibilities when it comes to your movement here. And so after many minutes in phase 3, I finally make it to phase 4 with this final burst. Oh man, this was a rough one. But at least I still have 6 lives. This is the best I did so far when it comes to the number of lives that I bring into phase 4. So I was super confident. Yep, this is gonna be the run. I just have to make sure I play it safe, because there are bombs here in this phase that do a lot of damage. But if you have healing familiars, this phase becomes really easy. You can see me switching into my second familiar set. Here I have 60% boss damage and a double healing familiar, and this will basically guarantee the victory at this point. The double healing familiar really does heal a lot of damage, so I can play more aggressive, or at the same time I can just ensure that I will make it through some of the harder patterns, especially when you tank a bomb and you have potion cooldown. It can be a little rough to survive, but many times, just a familiar healing you every, what is it, I think 11 seconds, really accounts for a big difference in this boss fight. And yeah, besides that, every time I do die, I just chill and wait out the timer, because at this point, when you're 20 minutes plus into a boss fight, your Maple Warrior 2 Empress Blessing skill does kind of desync, because it takes 4 minutes to recharge. I can't use it every 3-minute burst, right? So every time I have the opportunity to stay dead for longer, I utilize that opportunity in order to charge up the Maple Warrior 2 some more. And yeah, besides that, I played White Curse, Black Aura, White Curse throughout the whole phase, because I'm just not confident enough to switch around here and do any funny moves. No, I just want to ensure that I actually clear. It doesn't matter the time. If I spend 50 minutes in this boss fight and could ensure that I actually clear, I would do that. In this case, you can see I'm not gonna be spending 50 minutes in this boss fight, but rather 30, but it's still a long time to stay focused. So I think you can solo Black Mage if your run is shorter than 30 minutes, right? But that introduces a lot of additional headache that I don't think is worth it in many cases, right? But yeah, it depends on, what type of player you are, of course, right? If you are into challenging yourself with every opportunity, you definitely want to solo Black Mage earlier than this. But I think for me it was a comfortable decision to solo when the run looked like I'm gonna finish in 30 minutes. Like I said, the additional headache that I spoke of comes from having to rebuff many of your skills. So you have to rebuff the Monster Park potions, Guild buff, Ursus buff, Legion potion, right? Any stat potions that you use. And you have potion cooldown, and these also count into your potion cooldown. So, you really have to consider when you want to use these potions in the boss fight, and all this additional attention that you need to spend can take a toll on you and can cause you to lose more lives. Besides that, also your guild skills only last for 30 minutes, right? So when are you going to use them? If you cannot one burst P1 without them, you have to use them in the beginning. But that might mean that you run out of guild skills in phase 3, which is the hardest phase, right? So another decision that needs to be made right there. And I think it can be really, really, really rough when you think about it. If you wanna solo Black Mage earlier, especially when you're not liberated, doing damage in phase 3 is so tricky. And also, of course, class dependent, right? Some classes just burst an iframe, okay, then it's whatever, right? But if you can't burst an iframe and you don't have the Genesis iframe, yeah, you will have to stop bursting every couple of seconds in order to duck the kick. And that can be really, really detrimental to your burst. As you know, I'm thinking about Blaze Wizard again. When you're casting the pizza skill, you have to cancel your pizza, and that fucking sucks. And yeah, I imagine a lot of other classes have big trouble bursting in phase 3. Nightwalkers would also have trouble, still have trouble when they're not in Genesis iframe, right? But it's not so bad. It's still okay, right? But yeah, like I said, other classes, I think it would be really, really rough. And I respect everybody that does Black Mage solos before Liberation, because I know it's hella hard. It's hella hard. For me, being liberated and relatively strong was already quite the effort that I, had to bring to the table here, because I've never done this before. It took practice attempts, and these practice attempts don't take 10 minutes, right? They take 40 minutes, sometimes, because you enter without guild skills because you just failed a run, right? Then the whole run takes longer. Then you die out in phase 3 again. Then you don't have any skills up anymore at all, right? Then you just rage enter, and then, it's all downhill. I went through a whole spectrum of emotions trying to practice this boss. Oh my god. Knowing what's ahead of us in the Dreamer update, where they introduced the proper boss practice mode, man, I really don't feel like practicing bosses at the moment. Although I want to get better at the game, right? Man, it is going to be getting so much better when we get the proper boss practice mode, that it's just demotivating right now to have practice with the inferior boss practice mode. Anyways, it takes a ton of time to get through this, and the patterns just repeat over and over again. You can see me playing relatively confident, and that is all due to me having the familiar equipped right here. You can see my potions are on shift, right, on the bottom right corner, and many times I don't have potion cooldown because the familiar healed me up, right? And then we have the final burst of the run. I do die out of excitement because I know this is gonna be the run where I clear. It took roughly 29 minutes, the perfect time, I think, for a Black Mage solo, because all your buffs are completely utilized to the fullest. How nice, right? So yeah, you see me equipping all of my item drop gear, and then I even got 100% item drop coupon to get to 459 item drop rate. And what do I get here? As always, nothing but a really, really nice achievement. And a ton of MVPs, by the way. This gave me 6 MVPs, pretty nice. And that leaves us with one more thing to do in this episode, and that is sell the Black Mage Crystal. So, I think I've only one, yeah, exactly. One crystal sells for 2.5 billion Mesos. Damn, that was definitely worth it to spend the 30 minutes in the boss fight, right? 2.5 bill, that's really nice. Damn. We are racking up the money here. We are already at 66 billion. This is still the no spend much for me. Basically, I did change one potential, but it didn't cost the world, right? It was like 2 billion Mesos maybe, and that was about it. And I also have the money from the bossing mules here somewhere. exactly 27 bill. I did spend a little bit of this money on the bossing mules themselves, but yeah, we have roughly 100 billion in the account right now, and we should save more simply for the fact that, I'm in the rotation to get more pitched items and I would like to upgrade them when I get them, right? So, yeah. But I think having 100 billion Meso buffer or worth of buffer is good enough, and everything beyond that, I should probably just upgrade some random things here or there. But yeah, like I said, that does it for this episode. I tried setting up the timestamp in the bottom left, but honestly, I forgot how to do it properly, and let's just hope that the timestamp will be back for the next episode, next Thursday. Until then, see you everybody. Take care, and bye-bye.